Yeah, rosters. Check these rosters out.
Powered by Riverside.
Alrighty. Welcome,
All right,
welcome
Blue Man.
to the World's Beautiful Game podcast, our newest episode to date, as we discuss all things EPL from the weekend. A lot of drama and controversy going on there. And then we'll get into some World Cup roster talk, as there's a lot happening, it seems, with injuries to players, non-injuries to some, and then just some rumors from other things around the world with Real Madrid, and then any other topics you could think of at the end. But no, let's get this show on the road. Will, what do you
Let's do
think
it.
about what's happened this weekend, man, with Arsenal West Ham? Let's start there, as that was the hot topic. Obviously, we did an update recently this week, but what did you think about everything that happened down in that game?
Obviously, I think it all just really went down to the um inside the box, obviously with the keeper. So that's pretty much everything it boiled down to. Um, Obviously Arsenal complaining as they typically do, and then they showed. Then I've seen like 50 different plays that Arsenal has done the same thing, and then they stay quiet. So nothing new. Um, is what it is at this point. You know, it's getting towards the end of the season. There's going to be controversial calls, and I'm sure the refs are going to want to go the way of towards Arsenal to help them as much as possible to win out, because that was a terrible call. But I don't know, that was just a giant mess.
Wild to think a call like that gets made with so much on the line, right? We already know VAR is inconsistent. We know VAR is always
Hmm.
kind of just getting in the way, doing things that are not really helping the game. Instead of helping, it's hurting. It's causing more chaos. Like you said, so much of what we've seen this season, and I think more than a season now, probably the last season and a half, 2 seasons, we see Arsenal doing a lot of these things that happened in the box in this game. And poor West Ham, to them, we're talking now a game that now has the potential to cost them, and obviously other factors involved, them hurting themselves. But this is $150 million, excuse me, British pound, um, dilemma now for them, because if this game is part of why they are relegated, uh, that's a big deal. And I don't know how. I mean, I don't know what more to say than, like, it was a foul. You saw it. We all saw it. It wasn't a foul
Hmm.
on Raya, but Declan Rice was tackling somebody, holding them down, and then a slew of other things happening in the box at the same time, also, and a lot comes down to Arsenal being, I would say, the catalyst to a lot of this going on. I mean, we see it in all games, not just this one. Sucks for Raya, but I would say also Arsenal at this point. Does this game give them the lead, basically? Because now this takes the pressure off of them. City's still chasing, but what do you think? Do you think this game now does a lot for them in terms of the league, basically guaranteeing them that trophy?
Um, like I said before, I thought they were going to win it. Let's see what their final fixtures are. I didn't even look.
They have an
They
easy
have
schedule:
they have
Burnley,
Burnley.
and then
Last game of the season's against
it was
Crystal
Leeds.
Palace,
Oh,
so it's
Crystal
not
Palace.
easy.
Yeah, but Crystal Palace is going into a final, so, like,
Yeah.
are they going to
Um,
play their full squad? You know what I mean?
I think
They're
they hold off. I think they hold off, and
What is happening?
yeah, I don't know. The camera, your camera's
Bugging.
just
It's all right.
yeah, you're being
It's all
tapped in
right.
on,
I don't have a face for a camera, anyways. I have a
tapping in on you.
face for radio. So let's just.
But I don't know. I mean, I think I don't see them losing these last games. Obviously, City are trying to do everything. I can see them maybe tying one game, um, which at that point,
City has
well,
to
they,
win out. So
well, yeah, if City wins out and Arsenal ties, then they tie on points because then they're at 79. So then I can't even say I see them tying because they really can't afford to even tie a game. I think they're in the driver's seat. They'll do whatever it takes to win. They're this close before a couple seasons ago when they bottled it. They had a decent lead, but there was still a lot of games left. With 2 games left, I they're
This
gonna win it.
this would be the bottle of all bottle jobs, if ever, and potentially of the firing of
Yeah,
Mikel Arteta. But I mean, it really
yeah,
is
yeah.
it's.
I
I
don't
think
see it.
the percentages of them winning now is probably like 90%. So,
Yeah, I don't see them bottling this one.
and then moving on to some other notable games, big games. I don't even know. I don't want to say big games. They're all kind of important in the race for Europe, of course. But Liverpool, Chelsea tie each. They both kind of hurt themselves, and they don't really do much for their push for Europe. I know Liverpool's still there, but Chelsea's just digging a deeper and deeper hole, looking like they're the next Spurs for next season if they continue on this trend.
Yeah,
Um,
they've done it before.
yeah. What do you
So have
think of
they.
what do you make of Chelsea? Because I know we spoke about Liverpool and how surprised we are at where they're at, considering their lack of consistency. But Chelsea is another. That's a team that it's kind of a train wreck at the moment. What do you see with them going forward, especially with how they've
Yeah,
been?
obviously it's gonna be an overhaul in the off season. It's gonna be obviously an American owner. He's garbage. He knows nothing about the culture of football, and he's really ruining that club. Um, which as we've pretty much hated our whole lives, and I just now feel sorry for them. It's just kind of like, you know, they bashed obviously they were bashed on United and da da da. We pulled off obviously a sell of the century, selling them Garnacho, and so they're just shelling out money to team players that aren't worth it, just like what we used to be doing. United was buying players that it's just like, how are we paying this much money for them? So it's just,
It's a little payback for Mason Mount is what I would call that.
yeah. I mean, and even if Mason Mount hasn't even, he's just been injured, so it's not like he's been terrible. It's just obviously he can't get into a flow of it, but I can see them. I mean, they have the players to be able to turn it around. They have the quality. It just Moise Caicedo in the middle is obviously he's not on par with Conte, but he's Conte-esque as far as the quality that he brings in that position. Um, Shoot, if I were Real Madrid, I'd swoop for him.
I was just gonna say whether him or Enzo Fernandez, either one of them, I
Yeah,
think leaves because Real Madrid with their drama in their locker room, if Valverde winds up leaving or Chouameni winds up leaving Real Madrid, like I would say that's a great place for them to go
yeah,
poach a
no,
great player. So
absolutely.
yeah, that's a
They,
good call
I
there.
mean, they have quality players to be fighting for a Champions League spot. So
It's just a lot of young talent, right? There's no veteran
it's
presence.
always, yeah, exactly.
Their veteran is Reece James, and he's
Who's
never
always
in the
hurt.
lineup.
Yeah,
So
so
how much can that possibly do for you? Obviously, Enzo, World Cup winner. Caicedo is just a rock, but that those guys don't seem to be able to kind of carry that
no, no.
that Reece James mentality because that guy's a baller. Let's not even
Yeah, he is when
you
he's
know
healthy. He obviously
he's a great
he's
player.
well.
So
But I mean, yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens in the off season. We'll see what happens after the World Cup. We'll see who they bring in, who they let go. I think are they still on a transfer ban? So
I probably at this point
probably so. Yeah.
I think they're
So it
banned for
is
like
what it is.
12 seasons.
But yeah, I mean, I was more surprised that Liverpool tied because Chelsea are doing so bad. So I expected more from Liverpool, and they're just again, I guess they just had little sparks, and that tie was terrible for them. But it is what it is.
Yeah, all around a poor performance. I think both teams just lackluster, not somehow not going for points that they really need. Interesting there. And then in the rest of the pack that's chasing Liverpool, right? We also have Brighton, Bournemouth, and Sunderland all getting points. Brighton and Bournemouth both with a win. Sunderland tied United. So on that game, obviously there's a little bit of controversy with Bruno getting punched in the mouth, and apparently that doesn't matter. I don't know how many times you watched it. I know I watched that like at least 15 times and still don't understand. Not even like no check at all. And I wish there's no way that there's VAR didn't get that video in their face. And they're like, you know what? No, that wasn't violent, or that wasn't a red card. Like, to even check it, like, I don't understand. Like, that's another VAR decision that we're talking about. Like, VAR is the only thing we talk about these days. How frustrating was that?
Yeah, it's like I said, VAR needs to have some type of like at least explanation as to why, give an explanation as to why they didn't call that or why they wouldn't say, hey, you need to check this out. Even have the ref, hey, go over to the camera, let us know what you think, check it out. So I'm kind of, I like VAR, but at the same time, obviously the people in charge of it suck. So until they can obviously, they need to explain it because it just leaves people again that a play like that, and obviously there's been other plays where it's just like, how was this not checked? How is, obviously VAR can't make the decision, but they can let the ref know, hey, we think you should go look. Does it slow time down? Then maybe they need to do something and have a monitor or something near the, if it's a corner, then near the goalpost or something where they don't have to run all the way to the middle and they can check something, make it easier. You know what I mean? Have different positions to go see the video of VAR or whatnot, to make it quicker. So that way, obviously, it's not wasting as much time for the ref to run to the middle or check, come back. So just make updates. But
You
for
know,
now,
I almost wish they would take the approach of what is it, the NBA, that has the centralized place where there's like a VAR team that's all they do. It's not VAR in NBA obviously, but they have like whenever they check replays. I don't, was it, is it the NFL? I don't know, one of the two sports. They have like a, I think it's either for the playoffs or something. But like at this point, because the referee in the field apparently doesn't know how to make a decision, and VAR is not necessarily supposed to influence the call. They're just supposed to say, hey, we see something, we think you should look at it. And then
mm-hmm.
there should be, how with the baseball there's a clock for the pitcher, in the NFL there's a time clock for the ball to get snapped. Like at this point, like put a timer on the damn referee, like, buzz in his head, hey, time's up, is it clear and obvious? No, okay, let's move on. Like at this point, like set some parameters, make it so that, if it takes that long to make a decision, there is no decision. I feel like that should be the rule. Like, and at that point, the most right answer is I don't know. And if I don't know, I shouldn't make a call. Like it should just, whatever I call on the field is a call and let's move on. Because like
Yeah.
4 or 5 minutes to review that Arsenal play, and they chose to look at one thing that happened in the box, and it was only the interference on the keeper, which is really stupid. And then, not just that decision, but all
I
of the
mean, no, yeah, but
decisions,
the
of course,
Champions League
right?
that would just happen with Bayern Munich and PSG, again, same thing that they didn't have enough to overturn it, but he overturned it somehow. But like I said, that's why they need to do something. I don't think VAR is going away. I don't think it should go away, but I think they need to revamp it big time. And obviously, so there's people that make enough money in that organization to be able to figure it out. So
I agree.
that's
I
what it
agree
is.
for sure. Next up, I know we're going to just talk briefly. City over Brentford. They kind of put the smackdown on Brentford today with that 3-0 win, which kind of deflates the sails for Brentford a little bit, who was in that pack chasing the European places. City, of course, keeping pace with Arsenal. What do you think about the result today? I think you saw the lineup and saw that City wasn't
Yeah,
even playing with their full 11.
no, it's pretty straightforward. The City are still gonna, Pep put in players that are hungry, obviously, to get playing time, and that he knew that would help. And obviously, they're still going to be running full steam ahead to try to win the league at the end of it anyway. So pretty straightforward, nothing really to it. And it just sucks, obviously, for Brentford. They're 2 points off of the seventh spot. Obviously, they can still pull it off. They can get 57 points, so they can still get to sixth if Bournemouth stay. But a lot of factors to go into those final two games. So it's going to be tough to see any movement, if there is movement, and we'll just see what happens. But yeah, pretty straightforward win for City. Obviously, on goal differential now, they're up by one on Arsenal. So if they somehow wind up tying, that kind of just turned the tables a little bit. So
Yeah, like I said, Arsenal is still full control here, but City is keeping pace and keeping the pressure on. Uh, Unfortunate for Brentford, who's had a phenomenal season. I think a lot of these teams in the middle of the table have really shown out, and it showed in Europe as each of them are all playing there's a team from England playing in each of the finals. So interesting to note there, right? So the best league in the world is finally producing teams that actually make it to a final, regardless of how poor Arsenal have looked. I know, regardless of how poor Arsenal have looked, it was impressive to see that they've only conceded 6 goals in all of the Champions League in all of their games, which says a lot about, we thought Atletico Madrid was bad, or good, I should say, because defensively that's actually pretty impressive. So I think the final may be pretty decent for the Champions League. So we'll see how that goes. But
I would assume so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, PSG are going to take it to them, so therefore they're not gonna let they're gonna pretty much go, full force on Arsenal, which means Arsenal have to respond with something. And if Arsenal can't respond, then it'll be a shellacking, which will be perfectly fine. So either ways, it should be a good final.
And then last but not least for the Premier League, we had Spurs draw at Leeds. Important point for Spurs, of course, trying to stay out of the relegation zone and building, padding their cushion against West Ham, who are now 3 points back, I believe,
Two
of that.
points.
Is it two? Okay, 2 points back, and still, still close. Spurs still have a shot to not make it. I mean, they're getting at least a point in the last couple games. There was at 5 points in the last 3 matches, dropping points, but also getting points as West Ham hasn't gotten those results. So big, that's another club as well, who if they are to go down, obviously 150 million pounds, that's a big chunk of change with their debt. It's going to turn into a wholesale market for that team if they don't continue their ways. But the Zerbi seems to be getting the most out of the players, what he has, and then Madison returning after 300 and almost 70 days, I believe, so over a year of being out. Madison is back for that Spurs squad, which I think probably was a big boost, big motivating factor for them to get a result in this one.
Yep. Yeah. I don't got much to say about that, except let's just hold on and wait.
Yeah, and then we'll move on now to the talk about the World Cup and rosters,
Yes.
injuries
Okay.
that are happening. So much going on. Obviously, we knew early on about some of these. So Rodrigo for Brazil out for the World Cup. Hugo, yeah, no, Hugo Ekitike for France also out
Uh,
until.
that's a tough loss, but at the same time, obviously France is so stacked. Another not player that's not going to be missed. I mean, he's incredible. I like him a lot, but they'll be fine.
Yep, of course. And then Eder Militao for Brazil. He's been out anyway, so I don't know that
Yeah,
it's going to be a big
it's a
miss.
recovering time. Yeah,
Obviously, we're going over some of the bigger names. So Serge Gnabry for
yeah,
Germany. I think that
yeah.
one's a bit of a miss because he's
He's
decent when he's on Germany.
he's playing in Turkey right now, so it is what it is. They got some players.
Xavi Simons
That's a big
from
miss.
the Netherlands, of course, out with
Yeah,
that knee ligament injury. That
that's a
was
tough one.
huge a few weeks back. Ben White for England was a new one that was ruled out.
Yeah.
I'm always with him and Reece James because they play, I believe, the same position. It's an interesting one to see that they're going to be out another one.
Hmm.
But curious to see how Tuchel's, I feel like, is more structured. And there's 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 players that can. I think Spence for Tottenham is a player that can fill in and play a decent enough role. And I'm sure there's some other players that I'm not thinking about at the moment, but
I'm sure. Yeah,
um,
once we see the lineups come out, we'll see, and then we'll see.
considering that Ben White plays for Arsenal, big game is a player that can be trusted in big games, so it is a bit of a miss for England there. Correa for Argentina, I don't think that really matters
Oh no.
at this point.
Oh, that's
Morocco,
Joaquin. You said Joaquin Correa.
my bad,
That's
Joaquin
not
Correa.
the.
Oh, it's not
That's
the one
well.
that I was
That's
thinking.
not the Correa,
Yeah,
anyways.
it's different Correa.
But either ways, it's still not going to change. All right. Yeah, that's a good midfielder. It's going to be a tough loss for Morocco. I lost a lot of respect for them because of the AFCON Cup, what they were doing. It sucks because I really like that team, but I thought that was trash what they did.
Yeah, one of the dark horses I think for the World Cup, but obviously missing a player is going to be a big deal for them. They still have a pretty strong squad, I would say, based on how they've performed recently. So,
Yeah.
recent bias, excuse me, would tell you that they have a pretty good shot of at least getting out of the group stages and moving on to the knockout rounds. recent one that just came up a couple days ago, if not like yesterday, with Minamino getting injured
Yeah,
for
unfortunate.
Japan. That's a big miss there as well. Obviously, having a hell of a season at Brighton, scoring some golazos late in the season. Or am I thinking? No, is that the right Minamino?
Minamino, yeah, he played for he's West Brom. What is he?
No, Brighton. He's a
Or
Brighton. Okay, no,
Brighton,
he's a
Brighton, yeah,
Brighton. Yeah,
Brighton.
no.
No, not West Brom,
I
Brighton.
was
Yeah.
thinking of. I almost thought I was confusing him with the guy that played at Liverpool for a bit.
No.
It's a different guy. And
Mhm.
then notable for the U.S., of course, I mentioned it in a post earlier this week. Johnny Cardoso has officially been ruled out as he will be having surgery on that high ankle sprain, which interesting,
Tough
right? We've had
loss.
a conversation. Big loss, big name, big game player. Obviously, has been played in the semifinal of the Champions League. So,
Yeah,
what
especially when I'm seeing pretty much the replacements Tessman. I don't think obviously they are comparable at all. I think obviously Cardoso is miles above him, considering one was playing in the Champions League, made it all the way to where he was playing starting. The other one's still not anywhere close to him, so I don't think that's a quality replacement. At least that's what I've been seeing. I don't think he's going to be starting.
different type of players though, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but again, I don't think he's obviously. I think it's a big downgrade if that's who we get playing. I would see Tillman starting instead of Tessman. Obviously, Tillman not sitting back and then making some adjustments, but we'll see what happens there. Um,
The and then
but
not a serious injury, but there was a little bit of talk about Pulisic potentially, being long term injured, and it was that we did get a right before we got on here. There was an alert that he should be fit for the World Cup. Doesn't say much for his form, of course, as he's really kind of taken several steps back in the second half of this season. McKinney, obviously, now being the guy that's really stepping up and becoming our I would say our guy to really be maybe the key player for the U.S. in our attempt to really make a splash and hopefully make a deep run. We still, have no idea what's happening, but I would say to the Cardoso injury, that obviously is going to open up a spot for a couple players that are bubble players. Do you think this means now there's justification to bring in Gio Reyna, who recently scored, tap in, but recently scored?
I saw something with an interview with him, and I do agree with him as far as like they asked him, do you think you deserve to be on the World Cup team? And he responded with pretty much something along the lines of, well, if I say I don't, then they'll say I don't want it enough or I'm not hungry enough for it. And if I say I do, then they're gonna say I'm too arrogant and whatnot. So at the end of the day, it's not his choice. It's obviously the coach's choice. Again, I don't think he should be on the squad. He's only 20, still only what 22 or 23 somewhere, maybe 24 tops. But
No,
so
yeah,
he
he's
still has, yeah,
very
he's still
young.
young. I don't think he deserves a roster spot this time. I like him. I even have a US T-shirt with his name. He has the potential, and I hope he eventually gets to where he's supposed to be. But I don't think he should be on the squad. Yeah, again, but I don't think he makes the squad. I don't think he's proven it enough. Even during the Gold Cup, even when they brought him in, and everything, he wasn't the same as he has been before. So I wouldn't bring him on. Um,
Do
yeah,
you think these last two games? Well, curious, right? Because the roster is meant for the 26th to be completed. The final roster for the World Cup, May 26th. We have these friendlies coming up.
they have
Um,
till June 1st to make adjustments, anyways.
do you think he can make a big enough splash in the last two games? Because he'll be pretty fresh compared to most of other players. Like that's another factor to consider with him, right? It's like he's going to be way more fit, way less injury prone for a World Cup run. Do you think that matters? Do you think these last two games can he make enough of an impact to say, "Hey, I deserve to be on this team"?
I definitely don't think so. I don't think 2 games would make a valid enough argument for all these guys when we have guys like we said Zendejas that hasn't even talked about who's been playing well. And then you got all these guys Luna that have been playing well, and even on the team, even well Zendejas again, I brought him up a couple of times, and he played a little bit for the U.S. But when he did, he moved enough. Obviously Luna, who has kind of been like, is he gonna make it or is he not? Because it's a spot, so I definitely give it to him 100% over And then you got guys like Arfston and stuff, which I think played well enough. The Berhalter, I think he's shown enough grit and definitely to play, at least to make an impact, even if he comes off the bench. So I just don't see it. But again, yeah, from what I'm seeing, most of the teams haven't really made any announcements. Some are saying May. A good amount of them are saying till June 1st, which is the last day. So I guess if we do pick and he makes the choices in May, I think he still has a couple of days to still readjust anything if needed. Which, um, but
Do you find it
uh,
strange that there's some teams that are doing a provisionary roster with like 55 players? Like I heard Brazil
no,
it
because
has a 55 player roster, and then Neymar got
yeah,
obviously
which
named
is
in one of those.
that's what I was gonna. That was one of the things I was gonna say. I'm happy. I hope he makes it.
I don't
Like
see
we
why he
said,
shouldn't be on that team for the World
yeah,
Cup.
he's
Brazil's
working
not.
hard. It's just injuries and everything. I
I mean,
mean,
Brazil's not what Brazil used to be. So
yeah, they're not, but I
you have to
mean,
bring that guy in
on paper,
just
yeah,
for
on
the.
paper,
But I would think, and you may agree or not with this, but like that's a like a hero for a lot of these guys on this club. The younger guys,
yeah.
like just for that factor alone, bring that guy in.
Well, of
Like we're
course,
taking
it's
Tim Ream as our guy, veteran presence.
yeah, but
Like
that's a start. The sad part is he's a starter, and I hate saying sad part because it's all with all due
yeah, no,
respect, Tim Ream should
I
not be
love Tim
starting.
Ream. Yeah, no,
He should not be starting. He's not at the level. But obviously, if he gets the call and they tell him to start, he's not gonna be like no. Um, but yeah, obviously, maybe the group stages we might be okay with him, because of the strength and everything. But any speed or anything, it's gonna not look good.
yeah,
But back
I,
to anyways, not
yeah.
to take away from Brazil, but like again, remember teams like that and other countries like that provisionary. That's already um again, it's the World Cup for them, so this is the biggest thing ever. So even naming a preliminary roster, that's already like, hey, I already made it to that cut. So
So, question for you because I heard this on a podcast that I was listening to yesterday. When they call in the eventual roster that's going to play in these two last games before the World Cup, obviously the send off games, because most teams, most countries are going to be doing this. Do you think it helps or hurts having like that many players? Most like a good amount of those guys probably won't touch a minute of the field of the World Cup, but they're going to fight and they're going to be hungry to prove to win one of those spots to get minutes in the World Cup. Do you think it helps or hurts a team that could potentially in a training session, if they're going hard because it's the World Cup, that they injured one of the guys that it's like the guy? Or does it help the team that they are going to come in hungry and they're going to really challenge those players that are the designated starters or that you would think are going to be the guys that are guaranteed those starting roles? Does it help or hurt a team to have that many players, knowing that some probably won't see the field?
I don't think it hurts because at the end of the day, I mean, even again playing, let's not get into that level, but even when I played in the level that I did, there was always a starter and practice squad. And for the most part, they know you're gonna go in hard. You're gonna play hard, but you're not gonna go in hard. You're still gonna measure some of your tackles because obviously at the end of the day you want to get in that roster spot. But if you hurt somebody, you take somebody out, you're pretty much gonna get they're gonna get rid of you because they're gonna be like, if you're gonna hurt my players, my starters during the training session, then during the World Cup, like I can only imagine. I don't want to risk it, so I'm not bringing you. So players are going to play hard, they're going to play well, and they're going to bring out the best out of both. I think it's good just to have that preliminary squad as big as it is, just to kind of say, all right, cool, and then kind of give a couple of training sessions, and then you just kind of, all right, hey, start slowly taking it out. They have plenty of training staff to kind of see everything. And again, maybe he wants to see that much because he has a strategy, he has a tactic for whatever the group stages and everything are. So therefore, he wants to see everybody, and he wants to see if he maybe missed any of those guys that wouldn't have been if he didn't have a preliminary squad. He would have already cut them out without even giving them that final look, and then maybe he sees something, and then he's like, you know what, wow, I can't believe, I'm glad I did this because I would have missed out on this guy. So I think it doesn't hurt. I think it'll be fun.
Do you think with a coach like Pochettino, and this is the last question on this, and we'll move on to the last thing here. But do you think with a coach like Pochettino who talks a lot about grit and players that fight, you think that he really would shun away a player that's going that hard with almost like the potential to injure somebody, knowing why they're fighting that hard?
Well, remember, it's not that it's not so much that if there is an accident and somebody does get hurt, because again, the play they're just playing hard. But if it's kind of like if it's kind of it looks like it was intentional, or there was some pretty much like, hey, I want to try to take that spot, so I'm gonna do what I have to. Then yes, but I don't. Yeah, obviously you can't punish a guy for going in hard and playing, to try to show off as much as they can. It's more of if it looks, they're gonna see it and they're gonna be like, okay, this was intentional. He's obviously trying to get a spot and trying to take people out, so we don't want that. And but obviously, I think at this level, there's very few guys that'll do that. But at the end of the day,
I mean,
this is
but
a spotlight, so exactly, it's kind of like a.
there's a couple of guys on this roster, Sebastian Berhalter being one of them, even Roldan. I think those are players that they'll go. I see Berhalter fights, dude. Like I
Oh
can
yeah,
see
yeah.
that guy
No,
like
that's what I said. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, they're gonna go hard, but again, they gotta obviously measure themselves because to what I'm saying is, if they see that you're injuring one player and then you're going to continue to do that and you might injure another player, no, it's not worth it. So,
no, I hear you. I hear you. I just is a question I was curious
no,
on your
I'm
thoughts
not,
on.
no, he wouldn't turn him away from being, being pit bulls and going hard, but obviously there's playing,
There's a little bit
going
of
in hard.
a measurement to
Well,
because you
going
have to
exactly
consider a
because
yellow card. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that and I mean playing full strength or full force, when you do that on a player, you don't have to lay him out. If you body a shoulder check or something, that's not going to hurt him unless it's a freak accident, something like that. So if you kind of take him out cleanly, obviously all ball and everything, and then he gets freak accident, but there's a difference if obviously you go studs in on a challenge, big
Yeah,
difference.
no,
So
that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
That's fair. And then just last topic, really off kilter, but I saw it before we came on here. Fabrizio Romano reporting that Mourinho is on the final stages of a contract with Real Madrid, coming back to the Los
Oh,
Blancos.
I mean, I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, I think these up and coming coaches that might be okay. Same thing, obviously Xabi Alonso, Arbeloa. Yeah, they do have they do their quality. They were pretty good players, and maybe they're doing okay. But the problem is they can't control the locker room because there's going to be players like, well, who are you? You were just a player, now you're a coach, anything like that. Mourinho obviously is a completely different ball game. You want to mess with me? You want to fuck with me? Cool. Guess what? Goodbye. Sold. Like that's it. He's kind of he was in the sense of where Sir Alex are. You want to disrespect me? Cool. You're sold. You're gone. I don't care. I don't care who you are. And I think they need it because just slowly, just kind of seeing it how I think Mbappe is very toxic and obviously it's showing and you see how players have changed. I see Rudiger's very disrespectful. I see that. So it's just a bunch of players on that team that obviously have no respect for coaching staff or players. And I think they need a coach like Mourinho to come in and pretty much say, all right, cool. Guess what? We can get new players. We can shuffle things around. I don't need you. I can make a team work. Obviously, if I won a Champions League with Porto, I could win a Champions League with Real and any player that I just had to bring in. So I think it's a great choice.
I will just leave it on this one, and I know the common denominator on these last couple of clubs is Mbappe with the lack of success and lack of trophies. Um, do you really think he is that toxic? I feel like he may have came into a situation where there was other players at in that club that maybe had a little bit more of, like you mentioned, Rudiger, that maybe have a little bit more of a say and an influence in how some of this has gone down. Because I think about this situation with Valverde and Chouameni, right? When you got a guy like Rudiger in the locker room on the in practice in the games that does a lot of shit that's like really like sus and just is always it always seems like he's about to hurt someone. Like he doesn't have the like Pep when Pep was there and Ramos, like those dudes were animals and they were uh, I mean apparently the pronunciation's Pep. Um uh, uh to to say like when you saw Ramos and you saw and Pep, you saw them playing. They went at the opposition, right? Their goal
Exactly.
was going at the opposition and making sure that their teammates were always protected. If anyone had to take, a yellow card, those are the guys that were going to do it, and they would almost make plays that were stupid, but almost would turn the tide to their club to make sure that their club got the result in the end, right? I don't I don't I had not been a fan of Mbappe, but in the World Cup with France, he's a different player. So I kind of am playing devil's advocate here
Well,
because
the coach.
yeah, coach, he clearly can be a player because even with Luis Enrique at the end, I feel like he might have changed the mindset a little bit. I'm just curious if a lot of what's happened has not really been on Mbappe, but more on some of the other players around Madrid that have caused a lot of this chaos.
For sure, partially. I mean, Real Madrid lost all their leaders. Carvajal's the last one, and I don't think, obviously, I'm sure they don't respect him. So pretty much Real Madrid lost all those key factors, those anchors, and all of them, especially that they were all gone. So the new leaders are Rudiger players like that, and obviously you can tell that he's not a leader, and he probably encourages stuff like that, which is unfortunate. So they don't have that leader presence. So where does it come from? Obviously it's got to come from your coach if it's not going to come from. And so if you don't have leaders and then you don't have the coach that's leader, so yeah, it could be overall because obviously once Modric left, things changed. That was the last. Obviously, they're going to respect him there. But with Mbappe, again, he had a trio of Messi and Neymar, and there's a lot of plays that you can go back to where you saw that he's attacking, and there was a wide open Neymar, and he just chose not to, and he was just so. And especially, so I think he still causes a lot of wanting to be in the spotlight, and at that point, I think that takes away a lot, and so I'm sure for him with PSG the same way he was over there. He eventually probably started off quiet, and then he saw how toxic everything was at Madrid, so he decided to be himself, and I think obviously it didn't help. So
Well, we'll see if this Mourinho thing does come into fruition. I think that guy is definitely a guy that can control the locker room, like you said, like Sir Alex Ferguson once did at United. He's just a guy that demands respect, and he is not going to take shit from people. So for sure. Final thoughts on the Clásico, and not the result really. The season's been over because we already know what that mess was like. But you mentioned in our group chat how you really did not like Vinny going around and all those guys just shaking hands like they're best of friends when that game is not known for friendship.
exactly. I mean, I know that they say times have changed. It's not the same as back in the day, and it's sad. It's sad that that you lost, that you lose that fight. That to me that's I don't care if well it's just a game. No, it's not. This is you know this is what you get paid for. This is so at the end of the day, you just lost the league to your rival and you're shaking hands. I don't care if it's your teammate from Brazil. I don't care if it's your brother. You freaking tell me. I don't. Again, it sucks because sadly you have to go back to again rivalries and clásicos from before. I think this was the first time ever that Barcelona won a league while beating Real Madrid. So in a clásico, so that's how they win the league, and it's the first time ever. So, um, yeah, I think it's still at the end of the day, the respect for the badge is just it doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore. So I think that culture slowly died out, and yeah, I hate seeing the opposition team, especially your rivals, shaking hands. That's like again Tottenham shaking Arsenal's hand if Arsenal beat them out in the league and for them to win the title. Again, it's like the Milans shaking each other's hand after just any classic rivals. But like I said, it's just it pisses me off. It was a beat down too, because I mean Courtois saved them from getting scored on 6, 7 goals. So therefore, it was an embarrassment. And then on top of it, you're just like, all right, cool, yeah, yeah, let's all shake hands. Like I've been like, fuck you. I'd be like, I would have been pulling a Debo, like, yo, bah. I was like, whatever. Screw that. So I thought it was just
I mean, yeah,
hated to
it's
see it.
I hear Roy Keane all the time talking about he hates people swapping shirts and he hates people being friendly after the game. He even hates when the teams go clapping around to the fans. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, no,
You know, that's a little extreme, but at the same time, but to me, as far as again, even in swapping shirts, if it's not a rivalry match, cool, it is what it is. But again, you do that behind
but it just
like
talks
after, but
to the mentality that you're talking
yeah,
about, how it's
exactly. The
just
mentality is
changed
like
so much.
piss me the hell off. Like especially to lose to a rival, I'd be like, fuck you. I would definitely. Oh God, it boils my blood, and I don't even care about either team because sometimes I like one team, sometimes I like the other because it's not my league. But that just pisses me off, and I thought that was terrible. But
And then the final thing on this is to just cap it off, the Rashford golazo, and being a United, he's still a United player. Do we want him back? Do we not want him
it's
back?
crazy because it's his first trophy, pretty much his first title, so first league title, which is sad because
Do we want him
he
back?
deserves more. I think he should just stay at Barca. I mean, I would love him back, but
They
I
can't
think for
afford him,
himself, yeah, they
and
can
we don't
afford
want to loan him.
everybody.
So
They eventually can afford everybody, so they whatever play they do. But I mean, if we can get it back, by all means, because obviously he's going to help out in the wings. But then that comes who's being benched. So
that's true. I
yeah,
mean, but we need depth, and it doesn't matter. And we'll close it up on that. Again, thank you for anyone that listens and supports us as we continue to grow the channel and continue to grow the game as we move closer towards the World Cup. We're gonna switch gears to World Cup once these leagues all end, especially after the Champions League final. But we're gonna try to do our best to updates on rosters, anything that's changing, all the friendlies coming up. But thank you for supporting and watching. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow us on all the Spotify or
yeah,
whatever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again, guys.
yeah.
Have a great one.
For any of you guys that do follow us on any social medias, if you have any topic or anything you want us to talk about or mention, we'll gladly do it. Let us know.
Absolutely. Let's build a community. Let's talk about the game we love, the world's beautiful game. And on that note, we're out.
Peace.
Powered by
Stroke like
Riverside.
I gotta buy a new one, man.